Hello! Today I'm going to introduce to you clauses. Here we have a working definition. A clause is a group of words with at least one subject noun and at least one verb. It can be a complete thought. And it is not a sentence. So let's go through this definition and properly introduce to you just what a clause is. First, let's look at what it is. A clause is a group of words. Now, it's important to remember that when we're defining groups of words, we're not saying you can throw out random words and be like, paper, TV, shirt, nose. That's not what we mean when we're talking about groups of words. You can't just yell out random words and say, look, I got a clause. That's not how it works. The groups of words that we're talking about have to be groups of words that go together and they need to make sense. So, a clause is a group of words that goes together and you know what two of those words have to be from this definition. One of the words has to be a subject noun. You need the idea of who or what your clause is going to be giving information about. Also, you need at least one verb, because the who or what by itself can't be anything or do anything without a verb. Every clause needs at least one verb. Does that make sense? If not, you're going to have to ask your teacher about it later. We're moving on. Now, a clause can be a complete thought. This little star here, this asterisk, is to remind you that there are two kinds of clauses. One of these kinds of clauses can be a complete thought, and the other can never be a complete thought. So, the two kinds of clauses are independent clauses and dependent clauses. Now, you as students, especially if you're students at our academy, I imagine you relate more to dependent clauses. You, by yourselves, probably don't function very well or wouldn't function very well because you need help in your lives. You need help with English. That's why we're here. You also probably need help fixing food and living in your house. You can't pay the rent and pay all the bills that your parents pay. You're not taking a job and going to work. You are dependent. You need help. And that means that dependent clauses can never be complete thoughts by themselves. Dependent clauses need the help of independent clauses. An independent clause doesn't need any help. An independent clause can stand up strong and tall all by itself. Now, it can help out dependent clauses. They don't have to be alone, but the important thing to remember is that anyone or anything that is independent can be alone. So, that's the difference between the two kinds of clauses. Independent clauses are complete thoughts. Dependent clauses are not. Now, it's important to remember that even though independent clauses are complete thoughts, they are not sentences. They're missing something. So take a look at the three examples we have on the board. Students have ideas. Because candy tastes good, no school tomorrow. I want you to take a look at these three examples and try and figure out which one is an independent clause, which one is a dependent clause, and which one is not a clause at all. I'll give you a little time. Oh, you're not ready? Sorry, I'll just... I hope you're ready now. I mean, I had a whole little map there, so let's take a look. Ready or not, we're going to go through it. So, number one, students have ideas. What you need to ask yourself to figure out whether something is an independent clause or dependent clause is, Does it make sense? Can I understand what these group of words put together, what it's saying? Here, I hope so. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. Students have ideas. This is the independent clause, but it's not a sentence. Why not? What's missing? Can you figure it out? I'm not going to give you time for this one. I'm just going to tell you. First of all, sentences have to start with capital letters. Second, sentences have to end with some kind of punctuation. That is the only difference between independent clauses and sentences. Sentences have capital letters at the beginning and specific punctuation at the end. Independent clauses do not. So, number 2, because candy tastes good. What do you think? Does that make sense? Do you understand that as a complete idea? Well, probably not. I mean, there's some information missing, and when you see, especially a clause that starts with the word because, it should be a good clue that something is missing. This needs help. This is a dependent clause. Candy could be your subject noun, taste could be your verb, but this word here means you're going to be needing more information to complete the thought. This is a dependent clause. Well, that leaves us with number 3. No school tomorrow! You might understand the phrase, but you should also recognize that this phrase is missing a verb, and probably a subject noun. I mean, this could maybe be the subject noun. It could be, no school tomorrow means it's a holiday. But the point is, something's missing. This is not a clause. So, let's review.
Intro to clauses. What is a clause? A clause is a group of words with at least one subject noun and at least one verb. Is a clause the same as a sentence? No, it can be a complete thought, but it is not a sentence. What are the 2 types of clauses? The 2 types of clauses are independent and dependent. What is a dependent clause? A dependent clause is not a complete thought. It needs help to be a complete thought. What is an independent clause? An independent clause is a complete thought, and it can stand by itself. What is an independent clause missing to be a sentence? An independent clause needs to have a capital letter at the beginning and a punctuation mark at the end to be a sentence.